We had a client like this who's speaking at the UN, right? Unless you're speaking at the UN and if you say something wrong, it can start a war, or you're the president, or there are a handful of places where maybe you could argue, and we've seen this proven wrong in these past 4 years, that if you say something really wrong, it's going to be hard to dig yourself out of that hole. But in most cases, it's just not true. This is one of the biggest fears people who come to Ultraspeaking have, that I'm going to say something dumb, that I'm going to mess up and look like a fool in front of everybody. But it just doesn't happen. It's such an irrational fear. And I know firsthand, I've had that fear. Sometimes I still have it come in and I have to swat it away. But it's irrational.
Why do you think that? Because it's kind of, I don't really understand why this thing doesn't happen. Like, why is it that we get people out of the thinking brain, we get them to channel pure stream of consciousness in a lot of moments? We even have games that like get them to say silly things on the fly without thinking, and there's never been one of those moments where people regret what they say. Like, why
Well, I think part of it is indeed that words don't matter. They matter very much, and they just don't matter. Because if you have the right, if the words come out right, it's going to be magical. But if they don't, then just say something after that's going to make it make sense, right? We have a game that does exactly that. Mm-hmm. I really think words are overrated. Words are much more important, again, in writing than they are in speaking. Because, well, let's separate curated content from non-curated content. Because even in speaking, there is such a thing as curated speaking. And in that case, words kind of matter, right? Curated content is anything you are able to edit. Non-curated content is you're actually talking to a human being like we are right now. I'm talking to you, and I'm also talking to everybody who's listening. This is non-editing. It's just, we're just having a conversation, and this is what conversations are like. You're just try to get to what you're trying to say. In this kind of speaking, words don't really matter, and we're living proof of that, right? Because I've messed up a ton of words in this conversation already, and it didn't matter. I've said certain things in a way that might not have been perfectly clear, and then I'm able to catch up, or you're able to understand enough that you can bounce off of it, and it turns into a conversation.
Can I ask about the worst case scenario, though?
Sure.
The irrational fear, and I don't have an answer to this, but in today's day and age, like, everything's being recorded. Cancel culture. Everything's being recorded, and people have this fear that something's going to slip out, and they didn't mean it, and they don't know how it happened, but like they said something stupid or wrong or inappropriate or offensive, and so much of our philosophy is on don't think, just speak before you think, just let it out, and we still stand by it. So how do we reconcile people's biggest fear in today's day and age and our philosophy, which is like, don't be afraid of that?
I don't know if I have a great answer. I think that speak before you think can be misconstrued very easily. And the people that fight back against speak before you think, that we've had fight back, have all said the same thing. Like, I know a lot of people who should start thinking a little bit more than they speak. And I don't want to speak for the sake of speaking, and I don't want to say stupid things. So I don't know if I have a great, because that's not what we're saying. We're not saying just say the first thing that comes to mind. I do have a game for that, because if you don't have that ability, now that's a whole different issue, because there are moments where when you have a solid thought segment and you're on a roll, you have to be able to just speak. You have to be able to become this just channeling instrument for your inspiration and just let it come out. So if you're so terrified that you're going to say something dumb that you have censored yourself to the point where you can't say what's coming to mind because you're convinced that you're going to say something wrong, well, then you're never going to make it. You have to learn how to just speak. And then, so one of our games, analogies rapid fire. You have to put two words together, as you know. Life is like a bicycle because blah, 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 blah. And you got to fill it in. This one is to learn how to speak before you think. Just put out your first thought. Well, I've had multiple times scenarios in teams where there's a group, mixed genders in the group, and you'll have something come up such as, women are like horses because, and almost all the time, if it's a dude who gets that, they'll be like, whoop, nope, not even going there. Because they know, and I'm fine with that. Okay, you can. Obviously, if it's clear that something could slip up. That
And that's the thing, right? So although people are playing this game and they're going, books are like this because da 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 da, as soon as they get to men are like this or women are like this, there is a little.
It's a red flag.
There's a red, yes. And so that red flag is built into your system and it alerts you. And so in that moment, you do get out of flow and you do, at high speed, calculate what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Should I go here? Should I not go here?
You know what a cool analogy is for this? I think it was Ben Casnocha on Twitter a few days ago. He mentioned something about Zoom meetings, and he said 1% of the time when I'm unmuted, there will be a moment where a door slams or something happens that makes a little bit of noise and takes away the attention from the person who was speaking. 99% of the time, it doesn't happen. But here's what happens because it happens 1% of the time and people are afraid, they are on mute. And now we can't have a conversation. And now the entire flow of the conversation does not work anymore. And it's like, oh, wait, unmute yourself, boom. And there's this little added lag that just messes everything up. And it's the same kind of thing in speaking. People are terrified that they're going to say something dumb one time. They're unsure of their ability to censor themselves. So they just don't speak. They put themselves on mute. And so there's this lag that happens. It's the same thing in your brain. Wait, everything has to go through the filter. Wait, does this go through the filter? Boom. But if you do that, that's a recipe for absolute disaster.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
This is related to all this, and it's my personal belief, and I don't know if it resonates with you, but there's something about, like, you and I, we're speaking all the time where there might be moments where we will end up saying the wrong thing. In fact, there are moments where you don't even realize, oh, that was offensive, until somebody notices it and calls you out, and you're like, oh, I didn't. Like, there are going to be very possible moments that we say the wrong thing. And in that sense, especially in the culture that we live in, that is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
And yet we are not afraid of it, and we are continuing to speak. And I think for me, one of the biggest beliefs that I have is not in my ability to not say the wrong thing. It's not that. I will say the wrong thing at many, many points. Ask my wife. I am not always saying the right thing. I will say the wrong thing at many points in my life. So it's not that I think I won't. And it's not even in my ability to necessarily recover smoothly on the fly, which is a skill and is the thing that gives me a lot of confidence of like, if I say the wrong thing, I'll recover it well. It's this deep-hearted, deep-seated belief, and this could be baseless and it could be proven wrong in society, but it's this belief that like, if you just believe in your character, in who you are at your core, and you trust that like, at my core, even if I say the most offensive thing, I know myself and I know that maliciousness is not in me. What might be in me is ignorance, is an unawareness, and that I will assume responsibility, and if that's the case, then I'll own it. But at the end of the day, worst case scenario, like I could be crucified for something I say, I still stand by this idea that it will likely come from a place of good character and just like who I am. And I'm willing to say that like the way that I am is the way that I am. And if you're going to crucify me for that, I'll stand by it because I like who I am.
Yeah.
So there's some inner trust in your sense of who you are and what you stand for that gives confidence to your ability to speak.
I'm totally aligned with that. I think it comes down to be a good person. You know, if you're a good person and you can look yourself in the mirror in the morning, then if something slips, you can come. Everybody knows you're a good person. Everybody around you can say, no, it's fine. We know who that person is. We know Tristan. We know Michael. I know that he probably didn't mean that, and it's fine. And maybe we can even laugh about it. If you're not a good person, if you're acting in a bad way and then you say something, well, hey man, sorry, can't help you. Like it does start where I do think we're in a bad place in society when it comes to cancel culture and the fact that if somebody said something 20 years ago that was mildly offensive, it can get him taken off a platform today, and that we've lost the ability to say, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, and let's move forward. But I'm a little bit more worried recently. This is the thing I asked you to remind me of. I have auto-reminded myself.
Nice.
Of what's about to happen. So there's this absolutely remarkable app called Descript.
Shout out
for Descript. This podcast will be edited using Descript. Well, it's not going to be edited, but will be transcribed using Descript. And if we're taking bits out of this that will be published on LinkedIn or wherever, they're going to become curated content. We're going to take the bit out, and if there's something that I don't like in it, something that makes it a little bit long, that works perfectly fine in a podcast form where it's clear up front that we're having a conversation, not so much on LinkedIn where I want it to be tight and neat, then I'm going to edit stuff out. But here's the thing. This software is scary because it's so good. It is... I've overdubbed my voice on it. So if I say the wrong word right now, I can replace that word by just typing it with Descript, and it's going to say it with my voice. And the editing, I can take a snippet, a 5-minute snippet, and turn it into an amazing 30-second little bit. And it's so easy that tells me that by the time my kids grow up and my kids are using social media and my kids are interacting with anything online, there's going to be so much content like this because it's going to be so easy. People are going to be speaking, and automatically machine learning AI is going to just turn that into a beautiful version of what they just said. So everything I'm going to be listening to is going to be perfect. There's going to be no gaps, no pauses, no hesitation, no filler words, none of the things that make on-the-spot speaking what it is, the realness of it. And it's going to be, I believe it's going to make ultra speaking even more necessary, even more important. This ability to just speak and feel like yourself, because my worry is that this is going to lead to the same issue that we have with beauty that's only now starting to shift. And it's wonderful to see that you can go through Instagram or walk in the streets and see pictures of, I mean, this applies mostly to women. I imagine men as well, but it seems to be more women, where you can see women who actually look like the women you know, who don't look like the 0.001% of women on earth. And but the effect that beauty had, that this had on people's self-esteem, of seeing only perfect women and only Instagrammers now with everything looks so perfect from the outside that suddenly you think, hey, something's wrong with me. And I'm afraid that the same thing is going to happen with speaking, and people are going to be more and more afraid of just speaking because it's going to seem like they don't know how to do it. The gap is going to be even bigger. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, I do, right? Like, so Instagram and uses filters, and there's also Photoshop, so you can take a picture and make it look real, but edit out all the parts you don't like, the filler words in the sense, the like blemishes and things like that, and then you say, hey, this is me. And then people looking at that go, oh my God, like she's so beautiful, he's so beautiful, like I'm so ugly by comparison. And
even without the filters, even if you just take the filters out, but you can take 50 pictures of yourself until you find
that's
one
true.
where you look
so
nice.
It's hyper curated, and
you're
with,
only putting out the good stuff.
And with Descript, Descript is scary because it takes on the spot speaking and it makes it look as if it were perfectly polished. And the scary thing about that is that's not what on the spot speaking is really like. And most people already have insecurities that their on the spot speaking is not good as their prepared speaking, and they have insecurities that their prepared speaking is not as good as their writing. And that's an unfair comparison. You can't compare writing to speaking. It's not fair. Different parts of the brain, different playing field. So now if all you see online is people going, hey guys, this is totally live and improvised and it's perfect, then that just, now you have something else to compare yourself to, and you realize, wow, I'm really, really bad at this. So I am nervous about it. And on one hand, I'm happy about it because like this actually gives a lot of people the tools to share their voice.